What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of the TMT Podcast. This is episode 5, titled Role Models. And today, we're going to be talking about role models and idols.
Mm-hmm. So, we're going to get right into it. So, Tim, I'm going to ask you first, but this is obviously both of you. Do either of y'all have role models? And if you do, who are they?
Yeah, I got.
Well, actually, no, I don't want to.
Right, exactly.
You first. I was looking at you.
Looking at me.
But you usually answer first. But
yeah, I do have some role models. I'd say probably my dad. People that I can look to in a business point standpoint. Wow, it's echoing in my ears. All right. So people that I can look towards for, business help. So like my dad, for business, he runs his own business. For career-wise, since I'm in the Air Force, I look towards my uncle, since he also served in the Air Force also. I look to him for guidance. I look to both of them for guidance. But I feel like anybody that I can take from and learn and build upon in my life, I feel like anybody could be a role model for me as long as they're doing the right things.
Mm.
Or what I see would be right for me.
okay, so you're saying people that you can learn from and like they have things like that they carry about themselves like in their lives. I mean, like
Correct,
that you
yeah.
can see. Okay,
That I could
That makes
see
sense,
like
yeah.
putting into my life.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
For the better of myself.
And how about you?
Yeah, I have role models. And as Tim was talking, I was thinking about, like, what is a role model, really? But I was thinking, like, in my mind, I feel like a role model should only be somebody who fits the role that you're trying to go into at some point in your life.
Right.
Or is there where you are at, you know? Like, sometimes people would say a singer is their role model or a basketball player, and they have no dreams of going to the NBA at all, you know? And it's like, okay, but what model are they playing a role in your life as far as, like, somebody might not even be a father, but you plan on being a father one day.
Mm-hmm.
But the way you see them carry themselves, none of those characteristics match what you say you want to be. Mm-hmm. But you consider them a role model because of the status that they have, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to say that real quick. But, yeah, I have role models. Like, people like my dad, I want to be a father one day. Now, everybody who fits as a role model in your life, I don't think they got to necessarily be perfect.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly fitting into that role. However, like Tim said, you take certain things from them that you feel like you would implement in your own life.
Right.
And I got other role models, too, in different areas, you know?
Right.
But, yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, because I'd say that I feel like based off of what you both have said, like a really good role model is someone that you can be critical of, but they do have like qualities that you aspire to be at, like in whatever role they're in. So like you both said your fathers, I'd say the same, like my father. Like I see the way he carries himself, not just as a man, but as like a husband and as a father.
Right.
Like you can see those kind of qualities and aspire and learn to be like how they are, you know, like
Right.
your father.
Mm-hmm.
I've met both your fathers, love both of your fathers. So I know like as good men, like you guys want to be good men too. So that is a very reasonable, you know, choice as a role model.
Right.
But then on the other hand, I feel like a lot of people, like younger people, especially young men that don't have those kind of role models, that's where they do start picking like the entertainers. And,
Right, yeah.
you know, there's statistics that show that like adolescents that have those kind of role models, they kind of tend to flock to other things that aren't necessarily focused on that role because it's not somebody that you're really learning from. It's someone that you see that
Right.
has stuff that you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And with younger people, I'm not saying it's impossible, but a lot of times they don't use that as motivation. They just use that as, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that. Now, some do use it as motivation, but obviously when you're younger, you don't always have that kind of guidance to actually get there. It's something you just see and want to be. Like, for example, if I'm a young child, like, and I didn't have, like, a father or just any kind of guidance, really. Mm-hmm. And I just picked like let's just say like Future, right? I see how much money he makes. I see everything he has, and obviously I see how he behaves. So I might not be like him, but like I'm gonna try to be. But you have to also look at what kind of like personality traits and like his aspect of life. Like how would I apply that to myself as a child, and then try and build myself up to that. Mm-hmm. So like that leads me to my next question. But like, have you guys ever in your whole lives like had a role model that you didn't know? So like whether that be like an entertainer or like a philosopher, civil rights act, I don't know, but think something like that. I'll start with you.
No, go ahead.
Or
Ted said
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still do.
Yeah.
And I find that I end up, the more I grow, the more role models I end up finding that I don't know. You know, some I do know. Mm-hmm. But like, for example, being in barber school now, and even before I even entered barber school, just cutting hair, there's this dude that I follow on Instagram. Never met him before, but I see what he's doing in the barber industry. Mm-hmm. And for me, he's a role model in that area. It's just like because he's constantly elevating, constantly growing. He's adding value to the industry that he's in. Mm-hmm. So
for sure,
yeah, that's just an example. But yeah,
okay, you?
Yeah, I'll say I have. I've had teachers, people from internships that even though they may not still be in my life, that they are that role model figure for me for like a moment, and then they keep it moving. Yeah. And that I can that I know if I needed to, I could always go back to and get more help, more guidance, and that are always there.
I agree. So you're saying like those role models that you had, like your teachers and stuff, which I also have a teacher that I'll talk about a little bit later. You're saying they kind of pointed your life in a certain direction that you wanted to go in, but they didn't necessarily like, obviously you don't want to be a teacher, but like, they point your life in a direction where it's like, okay, I appreciate the role that you have in my life, and I know you would be there like to guide.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Because when I was in second grade, like I had a black male teacher. This is the only black male teacher I've ever had. Well, as like throughout high school at least, and like middle school, high school, whatever. And I was second grade, and he made me, because I was like I was the only black kid in the class. So, him being my teacher, he was a role model for me as a black boy because he was successful. Obviously my dad was successful too. You know what I mean. Yeah. But like in a field where I only thought was like white dominated, he was very prevalent, and he like led me to understand like how to learn. So like he was a good role model for me. And fun fact, he lives like 5 minutes from here, bro. So like he's someone I know, and like I saw him a year or two ago, and like I was telling him I was in college and stuff, and that was like just a really good feeling talking to somebody who has essentially been there like my whole life in the sense. And like I feel like for me, like teachers and different professions where they kind of guide you like are really, really prevalent role models that a lot of people take for granted, because like they're essentially molding the way you think so early on. Now some of them might not be great teachers, but for me, he was like, he like really made me interested in learning anything, to be honest. So
I got a question for y'all that piggybacks off of what you said. I have my own opinion about this, but I'm still kind of like, going back and forth with it. Do you feel like your role models, especially if you know who they are, like you've met them before, do you feel like they must have your best interest at heart, or even if they don't, it's still okay for them to be a role model to you?
That's an interesting question. I'd say when you say best interest at heart, are you talking about like in terms of like my value, or like in terms of like they want like my success in it?
Yeah.
Both, like how they see you as a person and them caring that you go as far as you can go and being as great as you can be in what you're doing.
That's a really good question. I'm not even gonna lie. I'd say it is important for role models to have your best interest at heart in terms of like what they are a role model for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if I want to be an NBA player and my role model is, let's say, former NBA player Richard Jefferson, just an example.
Yeah.
Like, if me and him have a personal connection, right? And his role, like, him being my role model is for basketball.
Right.
I think in terms of him wanting me to be the best basketball player I can be, I feel like he should have my best interests at heart. Now, I think it is a choice whether or not he wants to see me be a great person. Like, I feel like that's not like a role that he has to have.
Right,
but like,
right.
I feel like in terms of basketball, you just want me to be the best basketball player because that's the role model that I want you to be in my life, and we mutually agreed for that.
Right.
You know, like in terms of like how we communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, being that you said mutually agreed for that, because I had another question based on
Yeah.
that. So, do you feel like your role model has to be a mentor, or somebody can be a role model without mentoring you?
No, somebody can be a role model without mentoring you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really just feel
I
like
agree.
it depends. I feel like it just depends on what you need, if that person is willing to give that,
Right.
and whether or not it's something that they really like. And it depends on if they have your best interest at heart. Because I feel a lot of times people will they'll tell you something like how to achieve something, but they don't really care whether or not you do it.
Right.
Which is why a lot of people say sometimes you shouldn't meet your role models that you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like there's a funny like like there's, do you know the NBA player Joakim Noah? He used to play for the Bulls a long time ago. You remember how he was talking about how he met Kevin Garnett for the first time? Yeah. He was saying that Kevin Garnett, he said, "Oh man, I used to watch you when I was younger, blah blah blah. Like you're my role model, blah blah blah." He said, "Man, I don't know, like I don't care." He was just bashing him and stuff. Like while remind you, they were talking like while they were playing against each other. So my thing is, even though that's your role model, that doesn't mean he has to care about you. So like but that's the thing. They never had a connection. It's just what he saw and he wanted to emulate. And he might have had some tips or something for him. Kevin Garnett could have, but like he didn't choose to be involved in it. Right. Yeah. You know, at the time. Now he could have been friendly about it. Like I'm sure if somebody did that to LeBron, like I'm sure LeBron would be like, all right, well, obviously not during the game, but maybe off season, give him some tips and stuff. Like that's just the kind of guy LeBron is. He's a nicer guy than Kevin Garnett, obviously. So like, I feel like it really just depends on like the circumstance. But I feel like a good role model that will have your best interests at heart. If depending on who it is. Like my dad, I know he has my best interests at heart, or I would hope. So like I could have him be a role model for me in multiple aspects of life, knowing that he has my best interests at heart no matter what it is that I ask him for. So,
and now do y'all feel like somebody, because I know this isn't everybody, some people just have a good heart genuinely, but do you feel like most people need to have something invested in you to want the best for you, or to have your best interest at heart if they're going to be like a role model to or a mentor in you? Do you feel like they have to have I want to have a mutual benefit, or like I didn't invest anything, so do I really care? You know what I'm saying?
Right. I'll say no. It shouldn't have to be that way. Just, like even going back to like teachers, Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah,
they're barely paid enough for what they do.
Right.
They're always giving back to their students because they're the gateway to like a good society in the long run. Right. Look, you start off preschool, kindergarten. That's where they're going to make their big first impression. If you got a preschool teacher that don't care about you, what do you think's going to happen from there?
School-wise, you're not going to care for school.
You're not going to really care for school. Yep. So I'll say, like, if you have great teachers that can be those role models, show you, guide you, they don't really want anything in return.
Right.
Right?
So do you think the person being mentored or the person who's looking up to you as a role model, they're only going to care as much as the role model cares, or the teacher cares, or you know what I'm saying? Like you said, with a teacher, the student may not care if they see the teacher don't care. So do y'all think that's in every aspect, or?
I feel like it's depending on how old the person is, they might need a push.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Like for example, if a student, like if somebody has potential, but they can't see it, but like their role model can, they might form a little energy underneath that person. Be like, hey man, like stop beating yourself around. Like you can get to where you want it, like where I am at.
Right.
You know, like in terms of success and whatever it is. But like I said, like a younger person might not see that. So I think that's a push to get to more of a self-motivating, okay, this is somebody that's trying to push me to someone that can guide me. So like I don't necessarily need him to push me anymore.
Right.
He can guide me to where I want to get, but I want to get there now. Because he let me know that by working at a certain level, I can reach that potential that he sees in me. So I really feel like it depends on the age is important, but also like that person's confidence in whatever it is they're trying to accomplish. Like for example, like say you're like a new father, right? If you're not confident in your fatherhood abilities or whatever at all, you might be asking, hey, can you like tell me how to like do this, do that, do this, do that. Now, if you have a little bit, now obviously being a father, you're dealing with a human being, so like you can't be too standoffish about that. But like, it's not, you go from asking your father, if your father was a good father, every single thing to, hey, so what do you recommend I do with my kid in this instance? That's more of guidance than like begging for help. You know what I mean? So because you're starting to build your confidence up as your role model is guiding you to do what you feel like you need to do. So like, it really just depends, I feel like, but like the less confidence you have, the more it might take your role model to push you until you do have it to where you can just have him as a guide, like a guidance.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then I feel like, okay, now that you say that, I'm in my head, I'm thinking, of course, well, no, you don't always have to meet your mentors. Somebody mentor you without. But it seems like what you saying that once they gain that confidence, they can go from being a role model to a mentor, if that makes sense. Because when you mentor me, it's like, I know what I'm capable of. I just need you to guide me along the way to where I'm trying to get to, like you said.
For sure.
So, okay.
And I have another question for y'all. Do you believe that your values should align, like your values, like what you believe should align with your role models?
That's a great question.
And the reason I ask that is because people underestimate, like, and I'm talking about not just people you know, but even the ones you don't. People underestimate the value, like the moral values that people have that they don't know that are successful. Because let's just say, like, I'll go back to the Future example. Future's not known as being the greatest guy in terms of like his morals, but he is successful. Yeah. He's a successful rapper. So if I want to be a rapper, is that something I might have to compromise to like be like him? And I think that's important because a lot of people don't really realize how much you have to change a little to try and fit what you believe your role model had to do to be successful. Yeah. So what do y'all think about that? Whether it be personal or not, it don't matter. But
I feel like you got to really do a true assessment of who you say your role model is and really know, like, okay, if I have to give these certain things up, is it worth me getting to where they're at? Or is there a way where I can get to that level without giving up who I am as a person individually? My character, yeah, that's a big one. Because when you get to the top, your character is really going to be the thing that people look at, you know? So I feel like I feel like they don't need to align per se, but depending on who the person is and depending on where it is you're trying to get to, like certain things aren't worth it, but if it's making you grow and become better, yeah, for sure, align your values with that.
How about you?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's almost like when it gets to that point, so like you just said, it's kind of like a two-way street. So like one way, you know, you change the way you are, right? So like your change of character, it may get you there faster. It may get you there right away. But at the same time, that's how people are going to perceive you. As this, you know, arrogant person, you know, don't care about anybody but himself, you know, flashy, all this stuff. But you can get there by not having to change your character. If you have the talent, you're going to get there, right? So, like, it's almost like a decision-based video game. Yeah. Right? So you choose your moral value, and then you kind of can't go back from there.
Yeah.
You just got to change it based off what you chose.
Based off of what you chose,
Yep.
yeah.
And you saying, I'm glad you said that, the whole character and time thing, because it's like, what a lot of people don't realize, they will give up their character, and depending on the industry, and like we know some things are just controlled by people that's like, they don't care about character, really. They want you to change your character and who you are. But character most times will keep you places that your talent won't keep you. And it was going to take you places that your talent can't sustain, you know, because ultimately, I mean, what do it matter if you got great talent, but your character sucks? Like, you're not coachable. If you a coachable person, okay, we can keep you, we can train you to where that person's talent was at, you know? And I feel like, so character trumps that all day long.
See, before we move past that, even just like comparing like a gospel rapper to like Future or like any of them, like that's basically what it is.
Yeah, really.
Like they rap about what they believe in, right? Christ, all that stuff. You know, they may not get, like, they're really good rappers. Some of them are
really good,
but they just won't get to the levels of what Future and all the other ones get to because of their moral values.
Now, what you saying that's a good point.
That's a really good point.
Because what you saying that, so do y'all think, like, when based off what Tim said, some people will look at that and look at the gospel rapper, and we just using him as an example, but it's like, with those two differences, they will look at somebody like that versus Future and say, oh, he's not successful, but he is. But it's like, okay, what does success look like to you? What did you want out of your goals? You know, like, what did you want out of life? If your goal was to rap or get your word out to people, get your voice out to people, then that's what you did. You might not have the same platform, whatever, but you have a platform. To me, that's successful then. So that reminds me of this story. Like, this boy, when I was cutting his hair, he was telling me, when I asked him what he wanted to be, he's like, oh, I want to be a sheriff, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a judge, I want to be a president. I was like, okay, like, what makes you want to be this stuff? He's like, so I can arrest people. And so I was like, okay. I was like, so why do you want to arrest people? He said, oh, cause I want to be a good person. I was like, so you want to do all these things because that's what being a good person is to you? And he's like, yeah. So it made me think, like, because I had told him, I said, you can be a good person without being any of these things. And when he leaves my chair, he's like, so how do I be a good person? And so that ties into, like, some people might think they can only be successful based off a certain position in life or based off having a certain amount of money in life. It's like, you can be these things without being that. Who do you choose to be every day?
And was his dad or something like any of those positions?
Nah, I don't believe so. I think it's based off of societies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because some people let society be their role model.
Right.
Like, a lot of people don't, well, I don't want to say a lot of people, but some people don't let a mentor or even somebody that they think is successful dictate their decisions. They always want to base it off of what society, like, views as successful.
Right.
Like, you know, a lot of people, like we were talking about the very first episode, like, a lot of people go into majors and go into college and do these things because they feel like that's what success looks like. And, you know, they aspire to do that because that's what, you know, the norm is. So, like, when you have a role model that is in maybe a smaller role or whatever, I feel like it's easier to actually get that real connection of what does it take to be a fundamentally good position in this role that I want, that I aspire to be from you. You know, like, for example, with the teacher, like, it doesn't have to be anything complicated.
Right.
Like, being a good person can be something as simple as if you see somebody struggling, like, if you see an old woman struggling, I see this a lot, but if you see an old woman or old man struggling with their groceries and stuff, like, I'll be like, hey, can I, like, at Kroger or something, like, hey, can I help you get your stuff in there?
Right.
They'll really appreciate that kind of thing because, like, they saw someone take the time to help them out because, you know, they're all old and weary and, you know, I don't say that to everybody because, you know, if you look like you got it, I'm going to assume you got it. But at the same time, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's, it's simple as that. And, like, I feel like a role model that is positive, you know, will fundamentally have those kind of qualities, which leads me to my next question.
Go ahead.
What qualities do you think good, positive role models have?
I was just about to ask you something about it. See, before I even answer, I feel like I gotta ask you this because
okay.
In my opinion, I feel like when I talk to people, I feel like everybody thinks they're fundamentally good.
Yeah.
If you say something to somebody, they're gonna compare themselves to someone else, and they say, "Well, I don't do this. I'm a good person." It's like, okay, you think because you didn't rob and steal from people that you didn't do other things, you just a good person. Like, what is fundamentally good to this society? You know, like what's the thin line? It's like, where do we draw it at between good and bad?
I feel like the best people are the ones that acknowledge that they're not fundamentally good.
And that's true.
To be honest,
people who know that exactly,
like people that have the awareness that they're not perfect or that know that they're not good all the time are the actual good people because they for one, they have the self-awareness to know they're not perfect.
Yeah.
And two, they know that being good is really about the effort. If you think about
you've got a conscience.
In the consciousness of like, I want to do good. I know I'm not going to be perfect, but like I want to make the effort to be good. You know?
Right.
Now, I'm not saying, some people, they just do dumb things and bad things. I'm trying to be good. You know what I mean? Like, no, you are not, bro. Like, you're not trying to be good. You're just saying that so then people can get off your case. But genuinely good people make the effort to be good. And I feel like acknowledging that first is by admitting that you are not perfect. And I feel like that goes back to, like, the role model thing. Like, a good role model will accept... Well, no, I feel like a person that has a role model will accept that they aren't perfect. And that's the difference between role models and idols. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Some people defend people no matter what they do. To me, that's crazy. Because, for example, like, I'm not trying to have people flood these comments or nothing, but like Beyonce. I mean, the fact you already knew how I was going to say, Beyonce could probably stab somebody and nobody would bat an eye. Well, I mean, she probably had a reason. That's the queen.
It's Queen B.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, so like that idolatry that a lot of people do with certain people misconstrue their concept of perfection. It misconstrues their concept of reality because a lot of people do not think that Beyonce does any wrong. And the fact that some people have her as a role model in that sense is very dangerous because now you think, well, I mean, shoot, Beyonce can do this. Shoot, I probably could.
Exactly.
Eventually, so it really just depends. But like at the end of the day, I feel like good people make the conscious effort to be good, and bad people do not care about that.
Okay, and I want to add a comment real quick. I'm about the Beyonce thing.
And I'm going to add something to you after that, okay?
All right. I'm going to say the Beyonce thing, and I got a question for y'all.
Okay.
Somebody said something to me. There was a grown woman one day. She's like 24 years old, years ago. Yeah, Beyonce's like a mom to me. She practically raised me. In my head, I was like, that's crazy. Like, you never met this woman, never spent no time with her, just listened to her music and watched her concerts. Like, the idolatry is just crazy. But you got a question? Or you going to add something to the Beyonce thing?
Yeah, I was going to add something to that.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so on Forbes, they say that you should have 3 types of role models. Your positive role models, your reverse role models, and your anti-role models, right? So I feel like people in I'm not saying like every celebrity, but some celebrities fit into that reverse role model. Well, yeah, the reverse role model because they have everything you want, right? They may check all the boxes, majority of the boxes of your positive role models, right?
Yeah.
But they fall short of that imitation. Like they put out things that you want to imitate to be a good person, right? So they, even if they're putting on I'm this good person out front, but behind closed doors I may be this, but nobody else can see it, right? So like if you're putting out to show people that you can imitate this and be a good person, that's your positive role model. But those people that, they're successful in their business, successful like Beyonce, for an example, like business, music, like rich, right? She's married to Jay-Z. that's your positive boxes you want checked off. But we don't know what happens other than that, right?
Right.
To show that she really is that good person.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I agree. I feel like that's how it is with a lot of celebrities. Like, some people say, "Oh, this or this celebrity is such a great person." You don't know who they are, though.
Yeah, right.
Like you can only now. Some celebrities slip and say something before they're famous, and then people look back into it. Oh, look in 2011 when Jay-Z said, that, you know what I mean. So like, there's instances like that, but for the most part, people that are famous and know they're going to be famous, or even have an idea, they will cover their tracks publicly.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. When you acknowledge, oh, this is a great person right here, you don't really know what kind of person they are, even when they're not like, because, you know, like there'll be instances where there's fans, there's instances where there's paparazzi, and they could still be a good person.
Right.
However, how you don't really know, though.
I feel like,
See, because like a lot of people think that, like, I'm not saying anything's wrong with this person. I'm just saying in general, like, a lot of people swear by this person being the greatest human being that ever exists. Like Chris Evans, for example. You know, the dude that played Captain America, right? So, like, cool dude. Like, I'm sure he's a cool guy. But I don't know that. That's all I see. That's all I've heard. But that doesn't mean I know him. You know what I mean? Like, so unless he has some normal friends that can speak for him across the whole world, yeah, he's really like that for
because
real. Like, I promise. Like, yeah, friend, whatever. But like, you don't know. And I feel like the problem with like just blatantly putting these people as your role models or idols even can be dangerous, because you don't really know who they are. Like, at the end of the day, it might just be like a toss up if they're actually good or not. Yeah. But like, you don't know.
You don't.
So that's kind of that untrustworthy, and like that lack of actually knowing could lead to your downfall.
You know what? That's absolutely right. I want to go back to that fundamentally good thing real quick, and I think I got another question for you. No, before I even get that question about the role model with the like Chris Evans, like just actors, period, anybody. It's crazy though. People will take the role that somebody plays in a movie and think that is them to the T. They will think that's the person's personality. I had there's a movie that Samuel L. Jackson played in. I think it's something Terrorist, where he was like this cop. He was like this racist cop. His daughter was black and she was marrying this white guy, and he had a problem with it. He was like acting out in all these different type of ways. This lady at my old job, she literally hated Samuel L. Jackson just for the role he played in that movie. Yeah. And I'm like, these are roles people are playing, but they will love you when you play a certain type of role in another movie. Like, I can't believe that was an actor. Like, what do you expect? You know,
some people,
he played the role well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you play the role so well, people forget. It's like like even the dude from Power, Tariq. Like, people, first of all, this dude was saying he was getting death threats and stuff like after recordings because like people took his role like, man, he's so annoying, bro. He's so like, that's not him. Like, like people take it so seriously, and they do that with a lot of different roles too.
Real quick, it's crazy. Back to the fundamentally good thing, right? I was thinking about it, and so do y'all think that the best, I don't want to say best people, but like the people who are actually good, like what you were saying, are those who, first of all, I'm going to say, show you who they truly are when it comes to the good and bad. They don't try to hide anything. They just put everything out on Front Street. But secondly and mainly, the people who will treat you and other people how they want to be treated. Because nobody really wants to be treated bad. So if I'm going to treat you how I would like to be treated, then am I fundamentally being good? Because I'm always trying to make sure you're okay. You know, things like that. Like,
yeah, and I think you hit it on the head when you said trying. Like, I feel like fundamentally good people are authentic, but they have an effort. They drive the effort to actually be good people. Now, I'm not saying anyone's perfect in that category, because everybody has their flaws, and like what like you said, the good and the bad. Authentic is authentic. Now, whether or not you want to take somebody for who they are is different than like if you actually agree with what kind of person they are.
Right.
So like, for example, Tim, I'll just use you as a quick example. Like, to me, well, I've known you since I was a baby. So like, to me, you have very little flaws. So like, But like, I know you're authentic. You've always been authentic. Like, I know who you are. I know how you act. I know what you're about. I've known all these things for so long. Same with you. And I know you guys make a conscious effort to be good because we've had these conversations of how you guys have displayed your good. Not just to me, but in general. And we look out for each other. So I fundamentally know you're good people because I know I can acknowledge you're not perfect. I can acknowledge you're not perfect. But I know that you make the conscious effort to try and be good people.
Right.
So, like, that's a fundamentally good person. And you guys don't BS or lie or anything that makes me question, man, I don't know about this guy. Like, I don't know about this dude. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, that's the difference between somebody that's fundamentally good and maybe somebody that might be a little bit shaky. You know, some people you just don't really, you can't get a read on because you don't know if they're being authentic.
Right.
And I think a lot of people can say that about certain people because they don't always put themselves on full display on who they are.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And some people might do that and it might suck. To be honest, that doesn't make them bad. That just doesn't mean you just might not want to be around.
Right. Yeah. And I'm glad you said, because I had another question for y'all based off of that. This can go into so many different avenues. But so the thing is, like, when it comes to being good and bad, like we were saying, do y'all think like people gonna change their perspective of good and bad based off of the people they hang with? Like, say there's somebody who they in the street all the time, right? They don't mind like killing, selling drugs, just whatever come with the street territory, right? Do you think people who roll with them are gonna think like, oh, they're a good person, even though they out here doing this because it's what they're into and it's the mentality that they're around?
That's tough because one, you may be showing like to somebody not in your group. So like say for an example, you know, we are all out there hanging out, right? But one of us is, let's just say you're
all right, bro.
You out here, me and you are out here killing, selling drugs, doing all this stuff. And Terrence is just hanging with us because, you know, we've been friends since forever. Mm-hmm. People are going to be like, oh, well, he's hanging with him, so he must be doing this, he must be doing that. Mm-hmm. And you're in the church, you know, helping Granny over here, like doing all this good, you know, serving to the community, all this stuff, but you're just hanging with us. So, you know, you must fit in that. Oh, look at this dude over here. Like, we got to watch out for Terrence.
Right.
So, like, I feel like in that situation, you're kind of just roped into what people see.
Yeah.
I agree. But
and not what they know.
Yeah, facts. That's actually a pretty good comparison. But I also think, like, again, going back to role models, right? Like, if your father, someone you look up to as your father, or anyone else that might be negative, if that's all you base what you want to emulate after, you might not think it's good, but it's what you want. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, if my dad was a killer and he was a murderer and doing all this extra stuff, like dealing drugs, all that, and I'm a young boy who wants to be like my father, because that's the man, that's really the first man you have a connection to, then I might not really think much of it as a child. Like, oh, that's so cool. I want to be just like you, Dad. And he's like telling me all this stuff. And like he's like setting this example for me. Obviously, I'm not going to think nothing of it. But then as I grow up older and I start having a better feel for the world, that is going to be more of a toss-up, like depending on who I meet and who I interact with. Because if, let's just say, for example, my father is still this drug dealer, murderer, or whatever, but I meet y'all. And y'all are telling me, bro, why you do that? Like, why are you doing that? Why you... Like, you shouldn't be hanging out with him. Like, why? Like, what? Like, that's your dad. But, like, at the same time, what he's doing is not right. Like, man, what do y'all know? Like, y'all cool, but, like, not that cool, you know? So, like, it really just depends on the influence at first. But I feel like with the proper... But, like, if y'all stuck with me and really tried to get me to see the error of my ways, I feel like after so long, it could be something that changes me after something potentially bad could happen, maybe.
Right.
Because usually, I'm not going to lie, and unfortunately, this is the way... People don't learn lessons until something detrimental happens. So let's just say my dad got shot, right? And I'm like, dang, how could this have happened? Like, y'all could really iterate to me, that might be you next if you don't change your ways. And that's where the negative role model comes into play and ruins lives because you're following someone that sucks, but like, you don't see it that way because you are too busy not acknowledging that this person has very, very dangerous flaws.
Right.
So like, I really feel like it just depends on like how how you like choose to move through the path of like learning like from people's mistakes. Like this dude just got shot and died. So like now I gotta decide like, do I want to keep doing this or do I want to listen to my friends?
Right.
You know, and obviously your friends have your best interests.
Right.
Listen to my friends and change my ways and be a better person. You feel me? So like that's how I look at it. Because that negative role model can have a very big impact, especially on young men. For real.
Right, yeah.
So
and if like using that same example, like with the street guys and somebody who wasn't, but like if I'm close to y'all, I might acknowledge that y'all, or I might look at y'all as like bad. You know what I'm saying? Because of what you're into. But like you said, because we've been growing up together for so long, I might just say, I mean, you know, they my boys though, but what they doing ain't right. But I'm gonna hang around them because they my boys. And then on the other hand, I might look at y'all and be like, nah, I don't think what they doing is bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I've been around. This is what I'm used to.
Right.
I mean, they cool dudes. Like, these my dudes. Nah, I don't hang around bad people like that. Somebody who's not doing that, I might just look at them. I might think they're good, but I might look at them as like, oh, they're a square though. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
And I might look at somebody. Once you in that level, you be like, okay, but I'm not doing what he's doing. Like, I ain't doing mass shootings or mass murder, so I'm not evil though. Like everybody tries to take it to a next extreme, you know. And yeah, I don't know that.
I mean, yeah, but that also just goes to like this accountability though. Like I feel like a lot of people see, like, I'm gonna just use this like sensitively, but like if you know your friend like sexually assaults people,
right? Yeah,
it's like you can't just turn the other cheek and be like, well, I mean, that's we've been together since I was a boy. Like that's my boy. Like I mean, he might do that, but like I don't, so we cool. Like
exactly,
you know what I mean? Like it's a certain level of discernment you have to make with the people you hang around and who you're letting influence your decisions.
Exactly.
So I feel like a lot of people don't do that though.
Yeah, and like Tim said, you might be lumped into that rope. You don't even know.
You probably do it too.
Yep.
Man, stay away from him because you know what I mean. Like,
but you want to stay around him because that's your boy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Like,
it's just not worth it though.
Nope.
But the thing is, another thing that I just realized, a lot of people don't check the people they're around because that's my friend. I don't care. I mean, that's his business. Like, you know,
All right, man, stay out of his business. Like
what? Your friend is
It's
a
like-
criminal. Like, what are you talking about?
I understand not being in people's business, but there's a threshold though.
There is a
There is.
threshold.
It's like-
Like, if you know that he's doing stuff like that,
Yeah.
man, either check him and tell him to stop,
Right.
or just stop hanging with him.
And if you're a true friend, you will hold him accountable.
Exactly.
No matter what the situation is.
Right. Nah, that's crazy. Nah, because there's actually people that do that, especially in college.
Yeah, no,
Like,
for
there are
sure.
people, I mean, man, bro, like, you just that's my dude, bro. Like, I don't, like, shoot, you gave me to do that? Like,
Right.
yes, he did. He is a criminal. Like,
Right.
what? Call the cops on this man.
Acknowledge it for what it is.
Exactly.
I feel like we ought to give people grace in certain areas when it comes to our role models, because, like you said, we don't know who they really are. But at the same time, be very cautious of who you say is a role model, who you let influence you, who you allow to mentor you. And that mentor word, if you break that down, actually came from a word in the Greek that actually meant something else. I'm not even getting into that, but it's wild.
Do you think, I got a question. Do you think people that don't have role models, so like, say something traumatic happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any family, you don't really have any friends, you don't really have like a social life, right? This is just an extreme.
Yeah.
And let's say you don't have any role models, you're just off by yourself. Do you think they still have the potential to be good? Because, I mean, they don't really have anything to judge what's being good and what's bad off of.
I'm going to be honest with you. Like, as soon as you said that, a thought that came to my mind, and I hate to say this, but, like, people who seem to usually be living the lonely lifestyle, being alone and being lonely, I feel like it's different. So I'm talking about actually feeling lonely and by yourself all the time. I feel like they come to be in a dark place, and they come to be depressed, and it's not so much that they will, like, I don't think they're necessarily a bad person. I don't want to say that, but they end up doing things that other people might not do. Like, statistically speaking, maybe. But, like, when you hear about, like, a mass shooter or something, right? Sometimes it'd be that kid who they was always to themselves in school. They always stayed by themselves. Nobody really talked to them. It's like, okay, you probably wouldn't have done it like that. You probably was depressed because you probably could have harmed yourself. You probably harmed yourself back at home too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I don't know. But it's like, am I going to look at you as a bad person because you harmed yourself? it's like, where are you at mentally? Like, you probably they probably need somebody.
Right.
You know, I don't. It's hard for me to say that really. Like,
I feel
but
like
that's a good question. Though,
that is a good question, and I feel like if they don't have anybody, family or friends wise, they will seek an outlet to give them some level of, I don't want to say purpose because it might not be a purpose per se, but some level of direction on what they want to do.
Right.
Like whether that might be media of some sort, like TV or social media or something, art, something like that. Now I'm saying that could be very. Now I feel like it's negative no matter what because you're saying they're alone. At the same time, I feel like the worst case scenario is something like he said, like he's a shooter or something. Mm-hmm. Now on the not so dark path, they might just be awkward. Depressed and socially awkward, like socially awkward, like they can't really communicate with others because they're not used to it or whatever the case. Like obviously no family, no friends. I'm thinking they might try and find an outlet to express themselves or connect in one way, whether that be with like animals or like, you know, some drugs or something. Like, it's always something, I feel like. It might not be positive, but...
Video games.
Yeah.
Like,
and this is the thing. Like, when you're not seeking something positive to deal with your problems, then the negativity will cloud you until that you have either awakening or you meet somebody that can shine some light on you. And I feel like the problem with, like, school and stuff, there's always a kid like that.
Yeah,
every grade, every year, there's always at least one or two or three, maybe not even a handful of kids that are lonely. Nobody takes the time to acknowledge their existence, and those are the kids that, you know, they might have family, but like those are the kids that might not have a lot of friends, and you know they start, you know, being a little bit awkward socially because they don't have anybody that like really cares at school.
Yeah, and home life might not be so.
Facts.
And I was gonna say, so what do y'all think? And I know this is like, I don't want to say it's going off topic of the topic itself, but like, what makes y'all think that someone is awkward in itself? Like, without saying socially awkward, just look at them and be like, they're awkward. Like, what makes us feel that certain people are awkward, and does that affect if we want to be a mentor or role model in their life based on how we perceive them?
I feel like we're talking about fundamentally good people, a good person will try and understand.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a socially awkward person is someone that just doesn't know how to communicate very well, might not understand cues in the room. You know how some people just can't read rooms and then like are really make stuff awkward because they don't know how to read, like their awareness is low. I feel like as a role model, you should understand, like, this person might be a little bit awkward right now, but they're a human.
Right,
you know?
Exactly.
Like, and it's like, with them being a human, I can figure them out to try and bring out the light in them. Because I've met people that have been awkward at one point and then the butterfly of the room the next with some little, you know, work.
Yeah.
You know, blossom. Like, I know kids, like, even like people I grew up with, like, used to be awkward and then kind of grew out of it. And now they're social butterflies because they found a purpose for one. And they had someone try and, like, guide them to try and, you know, express themselves in a healthy manner.
Right.
So I really feel like that's really what awkward is at the end of the day. It's just someone that doesn't know how to communicate with others in a manner that's, like, clear to someone that's used to talking.
Right.
And it's kind of just like, what the or someone that doesn't know how to, like, have, like, carry conversation. Yeah. They don't know what to ask. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to respond.
Right.
Things like that. But I feel like a mentor or a role model, one that does have your best interests at heart, will try and, you know, bring the light out of them so they can shine in a way where they can emulate whoever the role model is. Like, you know? So, like a teacher. Teachers are actually great at this because they try and get those kids involved.
Yep.
And, you know, they try and find what they're good at. Like, at least the teachers that I know did.
Y'all know what's crazy though? I feel like when we find those people that we consider awkward, like, they probably are usually very talented at something. Yeah. But the thing is, I feel like they're always looking for, I don't know for sure, but I'm saying maybe. They're looking for people to connect with who are into the very same thing they're into. But what you will find is that a lot of people don't even have to be into the very same thing you're into. I like singing, I like art, I like things like that. I might not be the best artist, so that's not something I do all the time. But I love going to see it. So I don't need someone who's quote unquote awkward like that. They don't need to connect with people who are very into art. Connect with people who see the value in what you're doing. You know,
It's
and then you
respect
can
thing.
exactly they'll respect it. You can create a group that way. Like
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that's another thing. Like, I feel like a lot of people only want to connect with people that like all the same stuff they like.
yeah,
And that's a big problem in high school, really.
yeah.
In like middle school and
That's how
stuff.
them
Like, oh, you
cliques
don't, you
get
don't like
formed.
you don't like Pokemon, bro. Get out this group. Like, we
Right,
don't want to
yeah.
talk to you. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and that was weird to people back then. So, I mean, it's more of just like respecting.
What was you about to
Right.
say?
I was saying, I think the video's about to cut off.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I feel like we covered.
That's a good enough spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, role models are important. So if you don't have one, seek one
Yeah.
or be one.
Cover-
Be
be one. Shoot.
for sure.
But that's it for episode 5, titled "Role Models," and talking about the idols and things like that. So we're gonna catch you on the next one. This is TMT. I'm Terry.
I'm Miles.
And I'm Tim.
We catch you on the next one.
Peace.
Peace.